Her father was an atheist, but her mom and she went to church every Sunday. She said she's holding up under the stress of the case. She bears no ill will toward the couple. She said the support has far outweighed the bad. If Rob comes in, I would give him a hug and catch up on his life. Yeah, clearly she's the villain. Clearly she's the bad one in all of this. You know, she has to be stopped. That crazy anti-homo girl, she's got to be stopped. What a terrible person she is. Because if you don't watch out, then she's going to be she's going to be running across the fruited plains in her white hood, looking to crack down on the gays. Ridiculous. But, you know, these are the controversies that we now talk about here in the United States, where freedom has gone by the wayside on behalf of a tolerance that only exists if you have the correct political persuasion. Oh, who's this? It's our good friend Paul in Woodinville. He wants to talk about the Iran deal. Paul, how's it going, dude?
Well, I almost want to switch to this topic, Ben.
Oh, you want to switch to this topic now? All right. Well, go for it.
I'll take either one. Boy, Ben, I thought as a lawyer you would know that this is all just based on contract law. You know, on contract law where there's 5 elements, an offer, an acceptance, competent parties, has to be some kind of quid pro quo, and an exchange of legal tender. So when you open your business, you're basically, it's like if you put an ad in the paper, I'll sell my car for $2,000. First person to show up with $2,000, you have to sell them your car. So when you open your business, that constitutes an offer. When I come in your business, say, here's the money, that constitutes an acceptance. Paul, considering if I'm a competent person to that contract, you have to sell it to me. And the idea that because it's a religious ceremony, you're not being hired to celebrate with us. You're just hired to be there. You see, like, I've been in the music business for 40 years. I played lots of weddings. I don't go to celebrate with them. I'm there to play. That's it. I'm not celebrating with you.
So let's take your case, for example, and your legal argument is not right, and I'll explain why in a second, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about your case, because you're a musician. Let's say that you're obviously somebody of the left. You seem like a nice fellow, a broad-minded fellow.
No, I'm not a lefty. I'm a centrist. You're the extremist. You're the
okay, Paul, whatever. Okay, you can label yourself whatever you want. Mm-hmm. We disagree on politics.
No, you
labeled
me.
Okay, Paul, label whatever. Okay, so let's talk about your case. You're a musician. Right. Somebody comes into your store or to your business and they say, "I want you to play music. You're going to play on stage at a KKK rally that I'm holding in Eastern Washington." Are you obligated to play for the KKK rally?
I don't have to do it because I wouldn't play a KKK rally for anybody. Anything I wouldn't do for anybody else, I wouldn't do. If it's
whoa, hold on, Paul. That's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. No. With respect, that's idiotic. And the reason that's idiotic is because Baronelle Stutzman holds the exact same position. She would not hold a same-sex wedding for anybody. You would not play a KKK rally for anybody. She's participating. You're not holding the KKK rally. You're participating in it.
It's a racist event, and I don't play racist events for anybody.
Basically,
let me give you.
You have the freedom. So, Paul, you have the freedom to reject service to someone based on their political perspective.
No,
Baronelle Stutzman does not have the ability.
No. Let me explain. It's based on what I don't do for anybody. You see, for instance, let's say
She doesn't serve a same-sex wedding for anybody, Paul.
She what?
You play music for anybody, correct? But apparently not. Apparently not.
Not if it's.
You don't play for the people at the KKK rally, do you?
If it's racist, I don't play for anybody. It doesn't have to be the KKK. It could be anybody.
Paul, you're such
a
hypocrite.
Playing, no, I'm not a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Well, let's make it more clear. Let's say there's a print shop owned by a homosexual guy, okay? Uh-huh. And the Westboro Baptist Church walks in and says, "We want you to print these flyers that say God hates." Is he obligated to print them?
You tell me. It's your theory.
No, because he wouldn't print a flyer like that for anybody. Whether it's the Westboro Baptist Church, you see what you're doing is.
But Paul, so Paul, hold on. So Paul, let's say that they just had them. Let's even work under your misguided and illogical theory. Let's say that they came in
misguided. You're the lawyer. You're a lawyer. Let's explain why my contract law theory is wrong.
Okay, your contract law theory is wrong because in order for there to be a complete offer, you have to offer a service, and the offer of service does not apply to same-sex weddings. Okay, the offer actually has to be explicit. There is no implied offer. If there were an implied offer, you would have to cater to that KKK event because you offer your musician services to anybody in any event, presumably.
But that discriminates against blacks. That's not fair. That's not legal.
Paul,
that's not legal. Ben, that's not even legal under the Civil Rights Act. So
Paul, first of all, that's not true. A KKK rally is absolutely legal under the Civil Rights Act. Of course, a KKK rally is legal. It's called the First Amendment. The KKK marched through Skokie, right? You remember this? Mm-hmm. Yes, it is perfectly legal under the First Amendment for the KKK to hold a rally. Do I think they're evil? Sure. Do you think they're evil? Sure. And that's why I don't think that they have the right to force me using the government to service them. You do.
To service who?
You think that anybody has a right to force you to service their event.
If I wouldn't do a racist event, I wouldn't do a racist event.
Okay, and Paul, if you wouldn't, that's it. You're missing the point, Paul, and I appreciate the call. The point, of course, is that in your subjective view, you don't want to work the KKK event, so you shouldn't be forced to work the KKK event. In Baronelle Stutzman's subjective view, she should not be forced to work a same-sex wedding because she does not want to work a same-sex wedding. It's called consent, and the government cannot force you to participate in an involuntary relationship simply because it feels like you do, Paul. And that just demonstrates the hypocrisy. So for Paul, because Paul thinks that he's right, that means that he gets to determine who he gets to service and who he does not get to service. But Baronelle Stutzman, he can force her to service anybody that he wants to service. That's the hypocrisy of the left. And that's the arbitrariness of the left. And by the way, the idea that there is an implied contract, the offer in this particular case does not come from the florist. The offer of service by the florist is, for example, she has a bucket of flowers on her floor. Right? She has a bucket of flowers on her floor, and the bucket of flowers on her floor says $20 on it. If you walk in and slap a 20 on the table, then the florist would have to take the money. There's an offer, there's acceptance, the deal has been made. Okay, but when it comes to a specific service, the person who is actually making the offer, and you know this, Paul, because this is the way that all events work, is the person who walks through the door. They're saying, I want you to service my wedding. Why don't you give me a price? In other words, there was no offer, there was no acceptance, there was no contractual relationship. There is a forced contractual relationship now because they are trying to pretend that Baronelle Stutzman was willing to cater any sort of wedding of any people. But that's clearly not true. It's clearly not true. And it's not fair to suggest that Baronelle Stutzman has to cater a same-sex wedding when she says, I do wedding service. When 98% of Americans participate in straight wedding services, and a solid majority of Americans still believe that heterosexual marriage is more valuable than same-sex marriage, even if they want same-sex marriage legalized.